Good evening and welcome to the October 15th, 2024 regular session of Findlay City Council. We will start this evening's meeting with the roll call.
Mr. Ballman?
Here.
Mr. DeArmond?
Here.
Ms. Frischi?
Here.
Mr. Greeno?
Here.
Mr. Hellman?
Here.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Russell?
Here.
Ms. Warnicki?
Here.
And Mr. Wobser?
Present.
Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a quick moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will accept a motion to approve the previous city council minutes. Mr. Palmer, second Mr. Baumann. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. They are accepted. Mr. Russell, do we have any add-ons, replacements, or removals from tonight's agenda?
One replacement for ordinance 2024-116 as amended. That's the hangar door repair legislation, changes in the header and the section, basically changing it from bidding to actually specific amounts of $98,505. Move that the agenda be amended.
Second, Mr. Wobser. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the add-ons say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. They are added. We do have a proclamation this evening. Mayor Muir?
Whereas October 2024 marks the 79th anniversary of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And whereas the purpose of National Disability Employment Awareness Month is to educate about disability employment issues and celebrate the many and varied contributions of America's workers with disabilities. And whereas the history of National Disability Employment Awareness Month traces back to 1945, when Congress enacted a law declaring the first week in October each year National Employ the Physically and Handicapped Week. In 1962, the word physically was removed to acknowledge the employment needs and contributions of individuals with all types of disabilities. In 1988, Congress expanded the week to a month and changed the name to National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And whereas workplaces welcoming of the talents of all people, including people with disabilities, are a critical part of our efforts to build an inclusive community and strong economy. And whereas activities during this month will reinforce the value and talent people with disabilities add to our workplaces and communities and affirm Findlay, Ohio's commitment to increasing access to good jobs for all workers, including workers with a disability. Now, therefore, I, Christina Emmern, Mayor of the City of Findlay, Ohio, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2024 as Disability Employment Awareness Month in Findlay, Ohio, and hereby recognize and commemorate the 79th anniversary of National Disability Employment Awareness Month and call upon all employers, schools, and other community organizations in Findlay, Ohio to observe October with appropriate programs and activities and to ensure that all workers with disabilities have access to good jobs every month of every year, and encourage employers to take steps throughout the year to recruit, hire, retain, and advance individuals with disabilities and work to pursue the goals of opportunity, full participation, economic self-sufficiency, and independent living for people with disabilities. So this evening, we have a Jennifer Dietrich with the Blanchard Valley Center here to receive this proclamation as we celebrate the individuals in our community that are working hard to better their own lives and our communities, even those individuals that have disabilities and are stellar members. So Jennifer, if you would come forward, I'll present the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jennifer. This evening, we do not have any recognition, retirement, or retirement resolutions. We have no petitions. We have no oral communications. We have one written communication.
An email from Laura Getz of Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company Marketing Manager regarding immigration.
Questions or comments? Mr. Russell.
So Mayor, I understand this is from the sender, Ms. Getz, from her. I understand it to be personally. I'm wondering, have you had any contact with Cooper/Goodyear concerning the topics that she was raising? Or because originally reading this, I thought this was a Goodyear position coming from a manager and all. I'm wondering if you've had any contact with Cooper.
Mayor?
I have spoke with the Goodyear team regarding our immigrant community, as well as just general community update. They were made aware of this email. It is not representative of the community's position. They did not express any concerns related to our immigrant population or overall community safety. They continue to be a good community partner and did not have any concerns at this point.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Make a motion to have it read into the record.
Second, Ms. Frishy. All those in favor of having it read, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
It will. Okay, that's right. We'll have to do a roll call. All right. Some were louder than others. Go ahead.
Mr. Baldwin,
Nay.
Mr. DeArmond,
Nay.
Ms. Frishy,
What was my, I'm I to have it read, sorry.
it's okay. Mr. Greeno,
Nay.
Mr. Hellman, Mr. Niemeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Palmer,
Nay.
Mr. Russell,
Nay.
Ms. Warnicki,
Nay.
and Mr. Wobser.
Nay.
How many nays?
8-2 in favor.
8 to 2. It will not be read in the record. Ms. Frishy.
That was just a very disappointing vote. I think we took a quick focus from Councilman Russell that this email came from a Goodyear email, whether it was the impression of all of Goodyear or an individual in management or an individual hourly employee. I think it deserved being read into the minutes. So since Grant brought it up, that people understand what he was talking about and what the letter stated. And I think it's very disappointing that 8 council members didn't want the people's voice heard.
Mr. Baumann.
Well, I guess here's the reason why I voted no, is that we received an email from Laura asking that we remove the Goodyear Tire and Company marketing manager's stuff from her letter. That was not done, so that is why I voted no.
Any other questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Findlay Police Departmental Activities Report for September 2024.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
Wait, I have a question.
Ms. Frishy.
When we're looking at the police reports, is it possible that we can get previous year or previous 2 years put on that so we can see comparison month to month?
Mayor.
So in the KPI data, we provide that information. This report is a standard report that comes out of their system. So if you're looking for trend data and comparison, I would direct you to the KPIs that are provided on a quarterly.
I would rather have this exactly. I think we've been doing it 2 years. Has this been going on 2 years yet, or just a
Far
year?
longer than that. However, again, this is a generated report out of their system, so they would have to modify it. We provide the same data in a graph form with trend data on a quarterly basis as part of the key performance indicators.
Okay, I'll just ask for the police chief to give me that. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Report to be filed. Next.
City Income Tax Monthly Collections Reports for September 2024.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
Findlay Fire Department Activities Report for September 2024.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
Precipitation and Reservoir Levels Report for third quarter, which is July to September of 2024.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
City Planning Commission Agenda for October 10th, 2024, as well as the staff report of October 10th, 2024, and the minutes of September 12th, 2024.
Questions or comments? The agenda, report, and minutes will be filed.
Traffic Commission minutes for August 19th, 2024, and September 16th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Both reports will be filed.
The summary financial reports for September 30th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
Treasurer's reconciliation report for September 30th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
Findlay Municipal Court activities report for September 2024.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
A letter from Mayor Mern regarding city tax software Village of Macomb startup fee payment. It's for ordinance 2024-120.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from Service Safety Director Martin regarding insurance payment for repairs of Cube's HVAC system.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from City Engineer Calb regarding airport snow removal equipment building, project number 35232300.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from City Engineer Calb regarding A1 hangar door repairs, project number 35242200, amendment.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from City Engineer Calb regarding Han Lake Cascades and 6th Street improvements for 2024 TAP application.
Questions or comments? Mr. DeArmond.
Jeremy, can you walk us through the location of this?
Yeah. So we submitted this for a TAP application a couple years ago. It included improvement to the Lake Cascade and Western Avenue intersection, but we're holding off on that right now to get a multi-use path. But what this is the multi-use path that's coming from the West Park area. Kind of pretty much stops at a sidewalk in front of ODNR on Lima Avenue right there. What we'll be doing is be coming across Lima Avenue, taking this south on Western Avenue, and then turning eastbound onto Lake Cascade on the north side. On the north side of Lake Cascade, there's a 4-foot wide walk, and then it goes to a multi-use path, and then it goes to no walk within that area to Main Street. So what that'd be doing, they'd be expanding it all the way down to Main Street, be crossing Main Street, and then it turns into 6th Street from there, stay on that north side, go all the way down to Blanchard, tie it into the Blanchard bike paths, get you to Emory Adams. Once you get to Blanchard bike paths, then they kind of expand you to other multi-use paths from there. Then you can get to Greenway and stuff like that.
So getting across Speedway, is that, you're gonna take all those sidewalks, redo those sidewalks?
We would have to modify those curb ramps to make sure that it's acceptable for a multi-use path. Not saying that it'd be 10 foot or something, but we would have to modify those to make sure it'd be acceptable for that area.
Ms. Fishy.
Jeremy, like how in depth of a project are we looking at? Is it just a basic asphalt that's so wide in width? Are we looking at putting rails and stuff like we did partially when we went over heading down 568? Like,
so the like the Greenway the Greenway 2 on 568, that was more of a grade issue. I mean, that's a boardwalk system that we had to. That's why the rails are on that. We'll look at between asphalt and concrete on this. Long-term maintenance, how it's going to fit in with the neighborhood. Those will be decisions as we're going through the design on this. But mostly, this will be a 10-foot wide path on the north side. So if you want to say 10-foot wide sidewalk on the north side, but it's a multi-use path that can be used for bikes, any kind of inline blades or anything like that.
so we've seen numbers of usage on it to have the wider, because I just know we have a wider width on the north side on Lake Cascades, and we have regular sidewalk, then we hit Blanchard Street, and there's a piece here or there. And then the question being, like, were those sidewalks originally the property responsibility of those on the next street over, or those all originally we installed?
So the multi-use path, like that short section that is in there, that was a city program years ago. I can't tell you the year. It was before I came to the city. But this is just getting connectability throughout. Like we talked about, that we have kind of a multi-use to get connections. Right now, kind of the West Park area and that whole, there's no really connection from that point. Lake Cascade stops, it turns up to go towards the north there at a certain point. So this will get all the way through. Sidewalk within 6th Street is kind of sporadic. It's on both sides. In some spot, it's only on one side. So this will get connection all the way through. On the north side of 6th Street, we have a really wide right-of-way that we could utilize for that to make sure we can push that through there.
Mr. Russell.
The areas that are paved currently were part of the Safe Walks to Schools program done prior to the reconstruction of that US, 15 Western Avenue intersection, the dog bone. And so I think that was, we did it and ODOT funded it, I believe is how that Safe Walks worked. And I think the pavement in front of Cooper existed, and we tied in with the wider asphalt, and then headed north to the school, and that's why it stopped.
Mr. Stashak.
I guess this question, I guess, is partially for Mr. Wobser, but the council generally. The majority of these TAP programs, the monies we're putting in are one-time money. And long-term, we're looking at recurring costs for maintaining this program and these amenities that we're putting in our community. Are we to the point where something should be included in the budget book that talks about where that's going and maybe some work with Jeremy to put maybe some long-term, at least timelines as to when we'll have to be looking at reinvesting into some of these areas, because it is completely outside of your 5 basic areas: streets, water, sewer, storm, police, and fire. So you're adding a whole new long-term operational component with one-time money.
Mr. Wobson.
Jeremy, does this fall under Park and Rec once it's done?
No, this will be more of a street department maintenance with that. So
Because of the size of it, or?
No, because it's within, even though it's a sidewalk, it's still a transportation of, it's a person transporting, but within that, it's still classified as a transportation of a person within that. So it'd be a traveling public that the street department would have to be maintaining with that. So it's more of a street than a park.
No, addressing your comments, Auditor, it makes sense. At some point, anytime we put any asset in, right, we're going to have maintenance of that capital asset every street. And this sounds like it's just a very narrow street we're putting in that's going to be walked on, and hopefully no motor vehicles, right? Although you see them already, electric motor vehicles on 568 for sure. But anyway, those are costs that, would need to be included on our budget capture and our probably our 5-year budget. Things like other things that we're picking up, the retention, I want to say pond. Sorry, I'm not, what?
Dry basin.
Dry basin, thank you. We're going to have ongoing costs with that's going to have to be budgeted for. I'm done.
Mayor.
So open to the conversation. This is something that we've been talking about both. I know the last couple of years we've been kind of kicking around how do we address sidewalks and gaps in sidewalks, need for improvement in sidewalks. How do we want to address that as a community? So we'll be kind of bringing that to council for conversation. Additionally, obviously, maintenance of some of these items. One of the things that we are hoping to do is partner with the University of Findlay to have some students put together a trail plan. We're also been working for the last couple of years with GIS, getting our system updated so we have a better understanding of obviously our multi-use paths for sidewalks, where we kind of set aside funds for kind of ongoing operation and maintenance of these. Luckily, with the asphalt structure on them and even concrete structure, we're going to have probably 5 to 10 years easily without any maintenance. But we can certainly look at and have the conversation if you kind of want to see a line item, obviously working with the auditor's office, if we need to have kind of an operating capital item for repairs related to different infrastructure, or just building that into our budget, that's something we can certainly provide some insight on.
Ms. Frischie.
I wouldn't say we don't have any maintenance, because our street guys are going to be responsible, I'm assuming, to do the snow removal and maintaining those areas on a regular basis, which could lead into overtime and other things during the snow season. So I think we definitely need to figure that out. Or, because I think we did 568, we ended up having the parks do the maintenance. Is that where it ended up at? The Hancock County?
No,
Is-
that,
Or they split it?
no, we haven't, we're working out on, like, we're maintaining that because that's ours, pretty much structure through there, because
Okay.
it's our responsibility through the ODOT fund, so we are maintaining.
So we're doing the
snow
cleanup and the
removal If we
maintenance.
have to do the snow removal.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's where we work with our street department superintendent to ensure, okay, you know, how is your lines of action, you know, make sure your streets are cleared first, and then how do you attack from there? And, you know, we come
Yeah.
up with these plans before, we're just submitting and then say, hey, good luck clearing this one off.
Yeah, well, we're doing a lot with snow removal where we are doing main thoroughfares that are opposite of our city ordinance and removing snow for certain businesses and not all. And now we're going to be having these multi-use paths, which will not be the responsibility of the property owner to maintain. So that comes into overtime a lot, and I think there is maintenance that we need to make sure we address.
All right, last comment. This will be an ordinance that we can discuss later. Mr. Stashak.
I appreciate all the comments, and particularly with the fact that your street department is subsidized by the general fund. I'll talk with Jeremy in a little more detail. I'll talk with Deputy Auditor Sampson in a little bit of detail, and maybe look at how we actually want to book those monies as well. I don't know if it's best to put it in a line item or best to split it out. We'll take a look at that, and I'll take a look at some of the rules that the state auditor gives us for dealing with those types of things. But I'm glad we had this conversation. Thank you.
Committee reports.
A committee of the whole meeting was held on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, to discuss the city's pre-budget and mid-year review. City Auditor Stachak gave his mid-year update and a pre-budget review.
Mr. Wobser.
Make a motion to approve the committee report.
Second, Mr. Russell. Discussion. All those in favor of the committee report say aye. Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted or approved or accepted.
The Strategic Planning Committee met on October 8th, 2024 to discuss the implementation of a TIF district. We recommend to meet again once legislation is presented. No official vote was taken.
Mr. Wobser.
Make a motion to approve the committee report.
Second, Mr. DeArmond. Discussion. Mr. Wobser.
Just a note on this, the Strategic Planning Committee has been reorganized. It was reorganized back at our last meeting in the spring. So the letterhead on this is not absolutely correct as far as who's on a committee and who's not. So just wanted to make a note of that. We'll get that straightened out next time around.
Mayor.
Just wanted to let you guys know that the auditor and I are meeting tomorrow to work through the details coming out of that meeting on both the business case proposal as well as the ordinance. So hopefully end of day tomorrow we'll be able to touch base with the committee members and get something scheduled to follow up on that meeting prior to the first meeting in November, which is, I'll just take this as an opportunity to plug, November 6th, a Wednesday, given that November 5th, that Tuesday, is an election day.
Ms. Frishy.
I attended this meeting, and I think Jeff's on the committee, and I forget who else attended with you, but I know that Grant Russell was not there, that he was in Colorado, and the other council member was Brian Bauman, who just was not in attendance. These are important meetings, and the TIF discussion I made sure I was in attendance for, because I think there's a lot we need to do before we go and put any TIFs, if we do 1, 2, 3, or 4 of these TIFs, because the public needs to understand how the TIFs operate. We need to make sure we're talking with all of the entities on your property card to let them know how that they will have an impact, big or small. They need to understand that it does affect a lot of the operation county-wise as well. And I feel like TIFs have a place in our community, but when we're doing 4 of them, I feel like we are appearing to be very money hungry, and we also need to make sure we have Van Buren schools on board.
Mayor.
I appreciate you bringing up. I was going to wait till the end of the meeting to congratulate Councilman Russell on your son's wedding. I'm sure you had a wonderful time in Colorado, and I know Mr. Baumann had a prior commitment, so apologies that you weren't able to attend. Certainly, this is an important topic, and as we roll out more detail, I would encourage folks to read through that. TIFs are a bit complex, but I think ultimately they are something that can really benefit our community as a whole. And obviously, property tax is a complex topic, and when we look at the revenue impacts to folks, I think it's just important to emphasize that it's not taking revenue away from entities. The way millage works, it is just not increasing the pool. And yes, that can be seen as a negative impact to some, but the incremental increases that is realized from that investment, it far exceeds the negative benefit. So I think the auditor and I will be able to put together some material that really help explain it to the community and show why, yes, even though there are not added funds to the pool of funds for some of these county entities, that it is beneficial to the community as a whole.
Mr. Hellman.
If I may, while we were talking about attendance at this thing, I was informed that the committee has been restructured and that the committee members now are members of, or chairmen of, other committees within the city council. So since I'm not a chairman of any other committees, serve on several but not a chairman, that's why I was not there, was absent.
Thank you. Mr. Stashek.
Yeah, I'm another person who's not on that anymore. I was grateful for the opportunity to serve last year and be involved with the development of the initial strategic plan. But more importantly, for council as a whole, as you recall, we hired Andrew Brossart, Bradley Payne as a municipal advisor to be a fiduciary for the city and to be a sounding board for your body to make sure you're getting the questions answered that you want answered, the information that you want. I can tell you Mr. Brossart is a strong advocate of the TIF program and getting the city positioned to take advantage of some of these funds. That being said, and with the other comments in the room tonight, if you folks want him to come, we would probably need to contact him and lay the groundwork to try and arrange that so you have a resource, whether that be at a council meeting or a committee meeting. So give us plenty of heads up, plenty of time, because they do work with some very large entities in terms of the financial work they do, but he is just a phenomenal resource. And I really want you to take advantage of his knowledge in how you approach this, what you do, and that way you have a sound basis in moving forward.
All those in favor of the committee report say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
The Planning and Zoning Committee, to whom is referred a request from Mohammed Khalil to rezone 1700 Western Avenue from I-1 Light Industrial to C2 General Commercial. We recommend approval of the applicant's request to rezone 1700 Western Avenue from I-1 Light Industrial to C2 General Commercial.
Mr. DeArmond.
I'll make a motion to approve the committee report.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the committee report say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
The Planning and Zoning Committee, to whom is referred a request from Paul Tassler to rezone 0 Glessner, parcel number 560001008484 Avenue from I-1 Light Industrial to CD Condominium. We recommend to approve as requested to rezone 0 Glessner Avenue from I-1 Light Industrial to CD Condominium.
Mr. Hellman.
Move to approve the committee report.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the committee report say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
Planning and Zoning Committee, to whom is referred a request to continue September 12th, 2024, discussions on cannabis dispensary zoning. We recommend to continue discussions on C2 zoning overlay maps of distance from primary or secondary school, daycare, park, or church. Continue discussion on distance using 500 to 1,000 feet radius from restricted institutions, focusing on Trenton, Tiffin, 99, West Main Cross at I-75.
Mr. Russell.
Move for adoption of the committee report.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion. All those in favor of the committee report say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
The Appropriations Committee, to whom was referred a request to discuss American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds via Ordinance 2024-119. We recommend approval of the ordinance as written.
Mr. Wobser.
Make a motion to approve.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion. Ms. Fishy.
So at this committee meeting, I was the nay on that discussion because we had 4 ARPA funds being moved or reappropriated, so we made sure we use them before the end of the year. City Mission, their program of what their request made sense for us to do that because the City Mission is looking at women and children and moving that facility over and then having a low barrier facility put in. Not that I'm a fan of all of those things, but there are needs for that in the community going forward, unfortunately. However, the one that I had an issue with was Raise the Bar. And Raise the Bar works with the schools, is working with HR and within the community with job placement and things along those lines. I have felt from the very beginning, when we passed this several years ago, we were giving $30,000 a year to Raise the Bar, but it was being used to operate and pay salaries for Raise the Bar, which is a nonprofit, and I don't feel that it is appropriate for the city to be getting into that business, or we need to be opening the door and flood the gates with everybody that's asking for money. So their request was $90,000. During that discussion, Raise the Bar stated that if we gave them the $90,000 for the next 3 years, they would not be coming back to us. It would be done. So those were their words, which I jumped on because I'd like to see the ending of this program out of the city budget. It kind of got us into a little bit of a discussion, going back and forth, saying that, well, who knows who's going to be on council in 3 years? They can always come back and ask again. And I said, no, we need to write. It came out that a memorandum of understanding, I think Jeremy and Ginger kind of came up with that verbiage as a second ordinance, where it is clear that this council is completing their ties with Raise the Bar and supporting them financially. And I think it's a smart thing for us to do, so whatever council's in next can have that discussion and know where we were at that time. The other words that came up were, well, you don't know who's going to be on council then. Well, we don't know who's going to be on council for 25, 26, and 27 that we're going to prepay in advance at that $90,000. So it's an opportunity to use ARPA dollars instead of our general fund dollars to finish out this agreement, even though Councilman Woopser said that it's a year-to-year agreement with Raise the Bar. But they're looking at other ways to get financing, and their words were, we will not, we, get that. Could you? Oh, well, Surrey didn't get it. Were that we want our last 3 years and we're done. And I like those words. I want a memorandum of understanding. Unfortunately, we did not put that in the committee recommendation. Then the third thing was the police department to update their trailer response equipment, and then another recycle day in November, which made sense. But Raise the Bar does not make sense unless we have it specifically spelled out in a memorandum of understanding that we are ending those ties financially.
Okay.
with Raise the Bar.
Mayor?
Yeah, so Councilwoman, I appreciate you bringing up the concerns. So first of all, the reason that the city has consistently contributed is because, and as has the county, is because with a lot of the grant funding for workforce development, they have to be able to show that there is governmental support from their community to be able to receive the funding that has happened. And just real quickly, I think it's important to note, for those who may not be familiar, that Raise the Bar was formed out of a partnership between the nonprofit world, government, as well as the private sector to focus on workforce development for our county as a whole. So it works with those organizations to do cradle to career development. So that is working in the schools, K through 12, working with higher education, recently they are doing a lot with the leadership development program and helping individuals that are maybe already are adults and in the workforce, or maybe want to get back into the workforce but have been struggling to do so, and they're doing leadership development, soft skill development, and helping them get placed into jobs, as well as working with individuals from the city mission and other stages of life. So it's definitely a wide breadth. The reason that I had recommended moving forward with this financial contribution is because it would set them up to be able to leverage additional funds and hopefully not have to come back to us. It is my understanding, however, the reason that we cannot have an agreement specifically stating that no future councils or the city of Findlay will contribute towards a specific organization, which is what you are requesting, is a financial, is a statement saying that we will not give in the future, which we can't do because the councils change. That is a future council decision. So the MOU that we have to sign every year for documentation for the auditor's office, I send a letter to Raise the Bar saying this is what we are giving you. This is the time in which it covers. And in the past, it has been a 1-year agreement. We can say it's a 3-year, these are your funding for the next 3 years. You can't come back to us. However, we want to structure that. But we cannot make a commitment saying that future funds will not be contributed because that's not a decision of this body.
Mr. Hellman.
I understand the issue, and when Councilman Frischie was bringing this up, it gave me a little bit of heartburn in that we are speaking for future council people and the future situation 3 years down the road, and we don't know what that's going to be. So I guess if we're going to limit it, I'd just as soon limit it for 1 year at a time and make the appropriations as seen fit at that point in time by this council, not 3 years out.
Ms. Frischie.
So that kind of turned in part of the discussion where Councilman Whoopser kept saying, it's 1 year, we're writing them a check, that's it. Well, then we are writing them a check for $90,000 for 2025, where they specifically were stating when they spoke to us in the committee that 3 years and they were to be done. They did talk about matching funds and doing things, that is correct. I think they said they even received $1 million in funding this year, I believe, alone. So they are doing things, but they're looking at different ways to get their funding. And again, my heartburn comes from, we have how many other nonprofits in our community that would love for us to help pay their operational and their salaries for the people that are running those nonprofits, where we also, our obligation ties in a lot with those different groups through public safety and other things is how we support. We really need to have a memorandum, and I was not asking forever. We could do something forever, and we could pass an ordinance that says the city of Findlay is not giving money to nonprofits. We had that discussion several years back when we had the, it wasn't the hotel motel dollars, it was the convention dollars, I think is what we were receiving. And then we changed how we were distributing them. And that was, gosh, that was under Jeff and I think maybe our first year, second year. So my memory is very foggy. But we raised the bar. If you agree that we do it a year at a time and we address it each year, then it should be addressed in budget. We never really address anything in the budget down to the nitty gritty like this. But if we want to do these 3 years because they're ARPA dollars, they're not coming from our general fund, as a one-time way to save us in a different pot, well, then maybe we do that, but we spell it out and we say it's ending this agreement. And that's what they said. It wasn't my words. Those were their words in the committee meeting. I wish you could have been there, Mayor, to hear that.
Okay. Mayor?
So Raise the Bar is discussed every year as part of the operating budget. That is a discussion point. So what I'm hearing you say is that the agreement that I execute as a letter notifying Raise the Bar, you would just like language included that specifies that this is for the next 3 years. Is that a fair interpretation of what you're requesting?
Just so I understand this, maybe a point of order, are you requesting legislation to state that, or is that just a recommendation to the mayor to include that even though a committee has already determined that that's not needed and voted on. Ms. Frishy?
So when we talked in our committee meeting, it's not legislation, it would be a resolution, is what the memorandum of understanding, if I'm correct, Jeremy, you and Ginger said it was a resolution. And that would be what council's intent is, and that would piggyback what you're doing. So I think both pieces are needed, and it's dotting i's and crossing
And so you're
t's.
saying you would like this to say that it's for the next 3 years, which is within the purview of council.
Yep, but our memorandum is ending that agreement. Right, is that how, what was, I guess, Jeremy, what?
There's
how did-
not an
how did-
agreement in
well,
place,
let
so you
Jen-
can't end an agreement. We're stating
well,
that the funds are for a
The
specified
memorandum of
period of time.
understanding, Jeremy, what was
Yeah,
our?
so
how
you
did we wanna word
misspoke
it?
on what
A little
I
bit.
actually said on that. What I was saying is what the mayor was saying is that our MOU or memorandum would be saying that, hey, raise the bar, this is for the next 3 years. This is covering 25, 26, and 27.
Mm-hmm.
So that way they understand they can't come back in 26 and say, hey, we need another 30,000. That's what that understanding was. That's what me and the deputy auditor
And then they
was
would
talking about.
present and so forth, and at that point, that council.
So then
That-
from that point, so
correct.
like what the
So,
mayor's
but
saying,
that-
after those 3 years, then it would have to come back to council for them to decide if they want to contribute funds to it. But that MOU is telling Raise the Bar, hey, that's covering you for the next 3 years, so don't come back and ask for additional.
Before we move on to our auditor, you've got me confused in that we are approving appropriations committee that there's a specific recommendation of approval, and you're asking for that approval to be changed, even though it was already voted on and it was approved. I guess my question is, unless that committee meets again and comes up with a different recommendation, how and if we can change that tonight with just discussion. Mr. Wobser.
I appreciate that, Mr. President, but what Councilwoman Frishy, if she wants to make a recommendation that they're change the MOU, that's fine. She needs to state what that is. I think we're at one point where we're all in agreement it's for the next 3 years, and that was where the mayor's at. Now, Holly, if there's something more and above that, you need to state that so that we can have that discussion and make that decision as a council tonight.
Ms. Fisher.
So, Council President, the reason that I'm having this discussion is because I was having it in committee, and they did not want to include that verbiage into the committee report and said, let's have it during council on the record. That's what has us here right now.
Thank you.
And then,
I understand.
okay, and so, number two, with Councilman Whoopser, he wants me to clarify one more time, and I would request that we have an MOU that's in the council packet in the form of a resolution that we pass as council, spelling it out with us voting on it.
Okay. Stay shy.
And real quick, the good thing about doing it that way is it goes to intent, and under 733.13, that's what we validate against, and we would pull that then, should certain members not be here or the memory not be there, my office would pull it and say, hey, wait a second, we have this resolution out here that says it was this council's intent that no more money be given in the next 3 years based on the conversation at that time, so you need to address this in a different manner. So it's a good way to go.
All those in favor of the Appropriations Committee report, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay.
Nay.
Committee report is adopted.
Well,
I know.
to have legislation.
Legislation, we'll start with resolutions.
Do we need like majority in wanting the legislation? Or do we need a majority wanting the legislation to do that? Okay. Third reading for Resolution 28, 2024. A resolution stating what services the City of Findlay, Ohio will provide to the territory proposed to be annexed to the City of Findlay, Ohio, situated in Allen Township, County of Hancock, State of Ohio, and being a part of the northwest and southwest quarter of Section 31 and the northeast and southeast quarter of Section 36, Township 2 North, Range 11 East, a tract of land consisting of 21.724 acres of land, more or less, hereinafter referred to as the County Road 220, 99 Sheets Annexation.
Mr. Palmer.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 28-2024.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
And Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted.
Third reading for Resolution 29, 2024, as amended. A resolution, and it was amended last meeting, a resolution transferring funds within appropriated funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Ballman.
Move for adoption.
Second, Mr. DeArmond. Discussion? All those in favor of the resolution say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted.
Second reading for Resolution 30, 2024. A resolution stating what services the City of Findlay, Ohio will provide to the territory proposed to be annexed to the City of Findlay, Ohio, situated in Marion Township, County of Hancock, State of Ohio, and being a part of the northwest quarter of Section 5, Township 1 North, Range 11 East, a tract of land consisting of 1.480 acres of land, more or less, hereinafter referred to as the Weaver 6434 County Road 18 annexation. Second reading for Resolution 31, 2024, a resolution stating what services the City of Findlay, Ohio will provide to the territory proposed to be annexed to the City of Findlay, Ohio, situated in Allen Township, County of Hancock, State of Ohio, and being a part of the southeast quarter of Section 31, Township 2 North, Range 11 East, a tract of land consisting of 48.987 acres of land, more or less, hereinafter referred to as the Cole County Road 212 annexation. Second reading for Resolution 32, 2024, a resolution stating what services the City of Findlay, Ohio will provide to the territory proposed to be annexed to the City of Findlay, Ohio, being the southeast quarter of Section 32, Township 2 North, Range 11 East, Allen Township, part of the northwest quarter of Section 4, and part of the northeast quarter of Section 5, Township 1 North, Range 11 East, Marion Township, County of Hancock, State of Ohio, a tract of land consisting of 160.429 acres of land, more or less, of which 159.288 acres lie within Section 32, Allen Township, 0.27 acres lie within Section 4 of Marion Township, and 1.114 acres lie within Section 5, Marion Township, hereinafter referred to as the Voorhees, County Road 212, Township Road 99 annexation.
Ordinances.
Third reading for ordinance 2024-111, an ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the City of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids where required and enter into contracts for construction of various projects in accordance with the 2024 department equipment list, appropriating and transferring funds for said capital expenditures and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Greeno.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-111.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion? Ms. Frishy?
This is the ordinance that has the ARPA funds moving, correct, Jeremy? This is not, that's 119.
No, this is just regular, capital appropriation.
Quick skim over what those items were, just,
Door lock project for municipal building, roadway resurfacing within the cemetery, Melrose and Broad Avenue, advertising money for resurfacing, a couple of water line projects for design and construction, and then a couple of sewer projects for design.
thank you.
All those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
And Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Second reading for ordinance 2024-113, an ordinance vacating a certain portion of a certain alley hereinafter referred to as the Bank Street vacation in the City of Findlay, Ohio. Second reading for ordinance 2024-114, An ordinance amending Chapter 1100 et sec of the codified ordinances of the City of Findlay, Ohio, known as a zoning code by rezoning the following described property referred to as 615 East Edgar Avenue rezone, which previously was zoned R2 medium lot residential to R3 small lot residential. Second reading for ordinance 2024-115, an ordinance vacating a certain portion of a certain alley hereinafter referred to as the undeveloped portion of West Sandusky Street vacation in the City of Findlay, Ohio.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Like to make a motion to suspend rules and give this its third reading.
Okay, the motion dies to lack of a second.
Second reading for ordinance 2024-116, as amended. An ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the City of Findlay, Ohio, to waive formal advertising and bidding and enter into a contract amount of $98,505 with Metal Monkey Welding and Fabrication for the replacement of existing hangar doors on Hangar A1 at the City of Findlay Airport and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Hellman.
I might be overlooking something here, but I have a question on the replacement ordinance. And under section 1, that first paragraph, third line down, contracts is scratched out. And it says, we are hereby authorized to waive formal advertising and bidding and enter into with Monkey Welding. What are we entering into, an agreement or a contract, or am I missing something here?
So it's over the threshold for bidding, but we could only find 2 contractors that were doing it. So what I added in there was the contract amount that we'll be waiving for that. So that's what that $98,505 is. So pretty much what it is, we're not sending out the bid. This is waiving the formal bidding process to allow us to go with Metal Monkey for that amount.
So you jump down then to the other part. I got it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Russell.
Move that council's statutory rules be suspended and ordinance 2024-116 be given its third reading.
Second, Mr. Baumann. All those in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
The rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its third reading.
Ordinance 2024-116 as amended.
Mr. Palmer.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-116.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion. All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
And Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Second reading for ordinance 2024-118, an ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Russell.
The CSO long-term control plan is already, the data gathering has been done. This is the next phase in it. This is also on a EPA requirement that we create this plan. And therefore, I would move that council statutory rules be suspended and this ordinance 2024-118 be given its third reading.
Second, Mr. Baumann. All those in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
And Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its third reading.
Ordinance 2024-118.
Mr. Wobser.
Move for adoption.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion. All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
And Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Second reading for ordinance 2024-119, An ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids where required and enter into contracts in order to transfer and utilize American Rescue Plan Act, hereinafter referred to as ARPA, funds on additional projects, appropriating and transferring funds thereto, and declaring an emergency. First reading for ordinance 2024-120, an ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Russell?
This is a simple transfer of funds from one account to another, and therefore I make a motion that council statutory rules be suspended and ordinance 2024-120 be given its second and third reading.
Second, Ms. Warnicki. All those in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser? Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frischie?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
And Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
The rules have been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2024-120. Ordinance 2024-120.
Mr. Wobser?
Move for adoption.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser? Mr. Ballman? Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frischie?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
First reading for ordinance 2024-121, an ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Palmer?
Since this is just moving insurance money into the cube account, I recommend that motion that council's rules be suspended and this ordinance be given its second and third reading.
Second, Mr. Niemeyer. All those in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frischie?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Rules of council.
Sorry, did I do Ms. Warnicki?
I think you did miss me. Aye.
The rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2024-121. Ordinance 2024-121.
Mr. Palmer?
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-121.
Second, Mr. DeArmond. Discussion? Ms. Frischie?
Just curious, since it was insurance funds, what caused an insurance claim for the HVAC? I hadn't heard anything.
Mr. Martin?
As the letter describes, there was a power surge that impacted one of our HVAC systems in the Cube Ice Arena, and so this is actually their payment to us.
Cool.
Mr. Stashek?
I was going to ask this, but since the question got asked, are we doing anything to prevent a power surge again on that equipment, since it's $16,000 and that's a pretty significant cost?
Mr. Martin?
The electricians that came in found that they addressed that we are not going to have these in the future.
All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frischie?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
And Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
First reading for ordinance 2024-122, an ordinance appropriating and transferring funds and declaring an emergency. Oh, I'm wrong. First reading for ordinance 2024-123, an ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer to submit an application to the Ohio Department of Transportation for Transportation Alternative Program funds, and if awarded, accept and utilize funds for the Lake Cascades and the 6th Street improvements and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Russell?
This is simply the applying for the TAP funds. Therefore, I make a motion that council statutory rules be suspended and ordinance 2024-123 be given its second and third reading.
Second, Mrs. Warnicki. All those in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Frischie?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
And Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2024-123, ordinance 2024-123.
Ms. Warnicki.
Move to approve ordinance 2024-123.
Second, Mr. DeArmond. Discussion. Ms. Frishy.
Jeremy, what was the match on that application?
It's a 95.5.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, those opposed, nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Helbin.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Baumann.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
And Ms. Frishy.
Nay.
The ordinance is adopted. Old business. Ms. Frishy.
So circling back to that committee report, I would make a request that somebody respectfully second my motion for an MOU stating council's intent that the 90,000 for ordinance 119 would be for the next 3 years and completing our agreement at that time.
Mr. Niemeyer.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of the MOU? Yep, you're right. Discussion. Mr. Russell.
Jim, you mentioned that the having an ordinance helps with intent, and you referenced something in ORC that helps you with that. Are approved minutes? Does ORC recognize approved minutes for a similar purpose as of council intent? I'm out of curiosity because I wonder if not, then why don't we do ordinances for all MOUs?
That's
Mr.
a great
Stashek.
that's a great question, because when I'm looking at things, particularly from the past, and we've had a number of issues over the last year here, I go back, I do read the minutes, I read committee reports where they're available, and depending on the different councils, as you know, sometimes they're very scant. And then we also look at the ordinance itself. So having it, when there is an actual ordinance in place that spells it out clearly, that's when it's easiest for my office to say, hey, this is clear, we were or weren't to do it, hand that to the auditor, and the auditor says, why'd you spend that money? We spent it because this document, this resolution, or this ordinance told us to, or told us not to, in the opposite case. So there's value to it, but and not being the law director, I can't opine on it, but I can also tell you, why don't we do it for all of them? Because a number of times it's very, very clear. In other words, if you're buying a truck and you're buying a four-wheel, double axle, 1-ton pickup with four-wheel drive that's white, and one shows up that's only 2-wheel drive, we know that that doesn't mean intent. So it just question of clarity.
Other old business.
Well, there was a motion and a second,
Sorry.
so that's all you needed was 2 people. to
MOU.
request.
All those in favor
Wait,
say aye.
We don't need to vote, do we?
Okay.
So that'll
Other old business, like I said. Ms. Frishy.
I wanted to go back to the TIF discussion a little bit for council, only because I was thinking about what Councilman Wobser said with regards to, we should start getting some other projects into our capital planning, for instance, the dry basin. And then what that would circle to is water and sewer committee. We raised water rates 50% earlier this year. We have our carry forward of about $5 million, it seems. But when we're going to start doing TIFs and putting in infrastructure, those finances come out of the water and sewer fund. And we really need to be having some deep discussions about our capital planning, our general fund, our water and sewer before we move forward on this TIF or any of these TIFs, so we know how we're financing it, because obviously we're paying for the infrastructure up front, and we also have to remember that we are one of the only communities that has a citywide CRA, which are being utilized in these areas, and most of the time also the Port Authority is being used for sales tax being deferred on construction. So when those 10 years fall off and then the TIF comes into play for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, that's another hit on the taxes. Yes, we are making money over time as the city, but it's like a vicious circle sometimes when for instance, schools are asking for levies or income tax on the ballot because they're coming short, and I don't care if we say it's minute or not, the TIF is going to affect more than just the schools, and Van Buren is going to be the hit for these areas, for most of these areas, and because the fourth one is the downtown park, which is using it for residential / commercial use. And I think all of this council really needs to be understanding a TIF before we put any of these projects into ordinances to run through and pass before the end of the year. Some might be appropriate and some might not be ready to rush on, but when it comes back to the budget, especially that dry basin, which is a hefty number, plus we've been talking about replacing our water facility and so forth, there's a lot of money moving, and you can say, oh, it's $1.5 million or something, but it adds up and we got to pay for it up front.
Other old business.
Um,
Ms. Warnicki.
in reference to what she stated there, Andrew and the mayor both made it very clear at that meeting the other night that the schools are going to be made whole with this, so there's absolutely no damage to Van Buren School.
Other old
Yes,
business.
they did.
No. Ms. Frishy.
Now, we also had the discussion of maybe sitting down with Van Buren schools and having a side agreement to make sure that they are whole. But again, it's not just one. What are you going to say about Adamus? What are you going to say about Blanchard Valley Center? All of these folks are impacted on the property tax card. No matter how big or how small, there's an impact that everybody needs to understand, especially every taxpayer. And then we need to understand in our budget and dig deep to make sure we are looking at our planning. And if we want to go after TIFs, maybe we're not going after a downtown park, or maybe we're not focusing on a basin. We have to keep a balance going.
Mayor.
So you just brought up a lot of very important things for our community, and I hope I just heard you wrong and that you would not move forward with flood mitigation, because that would be an extremely detrimental. No, you just said, like, maybe we shouldn't do the basin. That's what you just said. So let's clarify, though. You did bring up a good point, and it is extremely critical that every individual in our community and council understand how property taxes work and the impact to the different entity, because I think you may have some confusion. Because the property taxes, you have the inside millage. And I don't want to dig because it is very complex, but I think that it's worth noting here that when a school passes their levy at a millage and the value at that point in time, they receive the money that that millage generates for that property. They do not receive extensive increases. They may receive some incremental additional outside millage, but you saying that the schools are being negatively impacted is not, it is misrepresented. And so I think that it's important. Yes, the schools do have a levy on, and I think that it's wise that they're moving towards an income tax levy, and we're not going to get into the nuances of that because of the impact. But I think you implying that by doing this that the schools are negatively impacted, and as Councilwoman Warnicki stated, I did explicitly state, and the agreements that are drafted, the schools would be made whole as part of the TIF agreements. And so stating that these are going to negatively impact the school is misrepresenting and inappropriate, because we do all have a responsibility to accurately educate the public and those impacted, because and so we're not going to get into a back and forth. Everybody can read the documents as it comes out and Google how property taxes work, but please don't state that we're not taking these things seriously, and we do discuss. And yes, we need to be setting aside money, but no, we do not need a new water treatment plant. No, we do not need a new water pollution control facility. Yes, we need to be investing. Yes, we're carrying over $5 million, but that's because we need to start setting aside money for significant investments into our water treatment plant. So I appreciate that you're stating facts, but you're also misrepresenting them, and I think that that's unfair to the public.
Let's wrap this up. It's just becoming an argument between the two of you.
It's not an argument, but I'd like to respond.
Okay, a hearty discussion. How's that sound?
So can I respond, please? New business. So appreciate you of even pulling Findlay City Schools when I specifically talked about Van Buren. Yes, I talked about people go for income tax. I was being generic. But when we have a CRA across the entire city, those properties, when we construct over in our industrial areas, are freezing the property taxes at farm ground value for up to 10 years. So yes, there are taxes being paid, but not with the $50 million or $100 million structure on it. When that 10 years falls off and a TIF comes into play, it's going to capture that money at that point and make us player number one. Correct?
You are correct
Yep,
in that
okay.
the city of Findlay will receive that revenue. However,
First.
again, it is not taking money away from the schools.
It is impacting every party that is on the property card, correct?
It's not adding new money to the pot of funds.
They are
not receiving funds.
So they are being impacted by not getting the larger amount to get their piece of the pie. So there is an impact. I am not trying to mix words or misrepresent anything. And then the 3 parcels, the 3 TIFs you're looking at are impacting Van Buren schools. And those discussions, when you want to talk millage, is completely a different discussion when you're talking their levies. So I'm not mixing my words. I am saying we want to be, or I want to be, a good community partner throughout the city of Findlay and Hancock County. And I want to make sure that we do not appear as a money hog, which is what it kind of looks like. It's great. There's a purpose for a TIF. My father was the first one who did it in this town, and it worked fabulous. I understand them. But we have to make sure we're maintaining a balance. So when you said, please don't say you are not for flood mitigation being completed, those weren't my words at all. I was using generic topics, and maybe I shouldn't have included that one to confuse you. But when we were talking about the dry basin, that is an expensive thing that we are going to maintain as the city of Findlay down the road. And it's not on our capital planning yet. But yet, when we're doing TIFs, we're going to be moving money to do a $1 million, a $1.5 million, $150,000 project that comes out of the money. That's how we ended up, you feeling that we needed to raise water rates is because we had a meter project that we fast forwarded and it took our funding down. I've been sitting in water committees and they are talk about budgeting and planning for new facilities. They are talking about our infrastructure and continuing to maintain that. There's a lot to this instead of saying, oh my gosh, let's do a TIF. I'm not saying I'm against them all, but there's a budget process to that. So I think this council needs to understand TIFs and our budget of how we're planning going forward. And we're not going to have that until December with you, or the end of November. We won't start seeing that. So we don't have all the pieces together yet. And I think Andrew would be helpful to help explain things, but it's not just, oh, let's just do this because it'll be great. It's for economic development. We don't even have people to work to fill jobs right now. So there's a lot to discuss, and budgeting is a big piece of it as far as council.
Okay, let's move on. Other old business, new business. Mr. Russell.
Just like to congratulate Habitat and 2 new homeowners up on, I believe it's Bishop Lane. Habitat, which has been tackling workforce housing or low-income housing for over 20 years in our community. Having, I think it was house 60 and 61 that they just completed, and a big shout out and congrats to Habitat and to 2 new homeowners here in Findlay.
Mr. Ballman.
I guess I would just like to echo Mr. Russell's, Councilman Russell's comments there. I'm excited to see what they can do with this new development concept. I think they're doing great things.
Other new business, Mayor.
Just a couple of quick items. I want to give a shout out to the Findlay Airport Director, Amanda McGee. This past weekend was Women in Aviation Day, and Amanda is currently serving as the president of the Ohio Aviation Association. She's representing us well and has been assisting, yes, so please reach out to her and congratulate her. She also was down at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. She is an Air Force veteran and did a lot of great work as she served in that capacity, so I just want to give her a quick shout out. Additionally, I just want to note this week and last week, our Public Works team has been out planting trees as part of our fall planting. This year, we have planted 347 trees throughout our community of 32 different varieties. So we are hoping to continue to move that forward. We were the recipients of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Urban Forestry Grant. So over the next couple of years, the Shade Tree will be working with them to be able to do additional planting. So if you did not yet get your tree and are interested, please visit our website to request one as we continue to build that out, as well as doing a tree inventory and a community urban forestry plan. Additionally, our team is out vigorously painting fire hydrants. So they were on the south end, I know, getting ready for the Halloween parade next week. I would remind you that is on Tuesday evening, and then trick or treat is next Saturday. It's hard to believe it's already the end of October. On Saturday, trick or treat is from 6 to 8 p.m. To both create a safe environment, but have some darkness. And I don't know what time Ohio State is playing. I haven't really looked at that, but hopefully it's not interfering too much. We always try to plan around that as well. And normally they haven't told us what time it is when we need to set that. So hopefully we'll be all right. And finally, I would just note, as we look at the flood mitigation, if you recall, we did bring up the stormwater fund as a mechanism for funding the maintenance. The current estimated expense for our team to be able to maintain the basin is about $160,000 annually. Certainly worth the cost, and we're fortunate to have the expertise on our team. And as we are preparing for budget season, I would remind you, you do have a 10-year capital plan that you can look at any point. We did make it clear to our department heads that as they are looking at that, we will have a parking lot note on there on some of the items that are brought up that we think we may be able to wait on, but may then pop up later in the years, like air conditioning and fire bays, so that you guys are aware of those as we kind of work our way through the capital plan. And additionally, I would note that our team works vigorously to plan and for our departments. And though we are not we aren't able to predict the future, I'm really proud of the work that we have done to continue to build that out. So thank you for the work that they do each and every day.
Real quick, I'd like to just comment that I'm not sure if everybody in the room's aware that George Whitson passed away. And George's been a great steward of our city and our county. If you look at his properties that are on the corner of Trenton Avenue and I-75, he's spent hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars decorating that with ponds and flags and welcome to Flag City, all at his own expense. And he loved Findlay, Ohio. He also loved his Michigan State Spartans, so we won't hold that against him. But please note, and if you get a chance, send Shirley, his wife, a note of condolences. But he's a great Findlay citizen, and it's hard to see him go. Any other new business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Baumann, second Mr. Russell. All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Any opposed, nay. We are adjourned.